So the material shows a majority of workers feel unappreciated, especially women and hybrid employees. And what I think is so effective here is that immediate statistic. You see 63% of men feeling appreciated versus, 51% of women? That just sets the stage perfectly.
That 12-point difference is definitely a powerful headline. But here's the first thought. While the material correctly points to unconscious biases for that gap, the analysis would be so much stronger if we dug into the actual mechanisms of those biases.
Right. I wonder if we've really maximized the impact of that number. Because saying unconscious bias, well, it feels true. But does it really move the needle for a corporate leader reading this?
I don't think so. I mean, the current explanation uses these high-level terms that, frankly, the listener probably already knows and accepts. It feels a little underdeveloped.
So how do we make it more actionable?
The suggestion is to focus the analysis on specific structural outcomes. So instead of just naming the bias, you analyze how performance attribution is different.
You mean, like, digging into whether men's contributions are seen as skill, while women's are chalked up to just effort?
Precisely. That's a perfect example. Or you could look at whether recognition practices are themselves gendered. Do they tend to favor these big, public results that are maybe more common in male-dominated roles?
And that overlooks the more collaborative, complex work that's harder to measure.
Exactly. That approach makes the critique so much sharper and gives leaders something they can actually measure and, fix.
That makes total sense. And if we fix that attribution, the next step is the delivery. So let's turn to that visibility gap for flexible work.
Yeah, the data is pretty stark. Hybrid workers feel way less appreciated.
They do.
And the suggested solutions, personalized thank yous, public shout-outs, they're fine, they're good foundational steps, but they really miss a huge opportunity to be tailored to that specific visibility problem.
They feel a bit generic, especially when you see that something like 70% of managers have no training for this kind of environment.
So the real opportunity is to get intentional, to be structural. We need to move away from just good intentions and toward actual systemic fixes that reweight the whole process.
A structural fix that guarantees visibility for the people who aren't physically in the room.
Yes. So rather than just saying publicly acknowledge work, what if you suggest implementing a mandatory asynchronous virtual kudos board and you link it directly to project milestones?
Oh, so you're forcing the appreciation directly into the digital workflow. I like that.
You are.
Building on that, what if managers were required to dedicate, say, 50% of all recognition to non-local contributions? You'd be targeting the bias head-on.
Absolutely. Then you're measuring recognition equity across locations, not just frequency. That's a real, measurable step that tackles proximity bias directly.
Okay, which brings us to the third group mentioned right at the top, Gen Z. The headline and the intro, they both explicitly include younger staff, but then
the analysis focuses almost entirely on gender and work location. The Gen Z connection is just sort of left hanging.
it feels like a missed opportunity. The material names them as a key group, but it needs a data-driven bridge to justify including them so prominently.
Right. The weakness is just that, the lack of specific findings for that cohort.
So the material has to integrate some data, or at least a causal narrative, to explain why this generation feels this way.
Yeah, because is there a risk that by focusing only on gender and location, we're overlooking their unique needs? I mean, things like their preference for more frequent feedback, or maybe a clearer line between appreciation and their actual career path.
We need a sharp consequence here. I think the piece could be so much stronger if it addressed the data showing that rise in interest in trade work among Gen Z.
That's a powerful point. Use that data to illustrate how a lack of white-collar appreciation is literally driving a career migration that really sharpens the so what for any employer reading this. It shows this isn't just about feelings, it's about your talent pipeline.
So to sum it all up, this material is excellent at identifying who feels overlooked. The three big opportunities are: 1. Deepen the gender analysis by focusing on attribution mechanisms.
2. Create targeted structural solutions that fight visibility bias.
And 3. Fully integrate that Gen Z narrative by showing the real-world consequences of the appreciation gap. Let's see how we can strengthen this by focusing on those mechanisms and structural fixes. We invite you to integrate these ideas and submit your revised material back to the critique.